There's a lot of background, there's a lot of history to the visit. David Cameron, as you were pointing out, Sally, he is currently holding talks with his Chinese counterpart not far from where I'm standing, and then later in the day he'll be holding talks with China's President Xi Jinping. The British Prime Minister says that Britain needs to build a new relationship with China. He says that that needs to be based on mutual respect and understanding, but he's choosing his words very carefully indeed. What you have to remember is that Britain was in the diplomatic doghouse as far as China was concerned. That was after the British Prime Minister met the exiled Tibetan spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama, last year. Britain was frozen out, but now the British Prime Minister is in Beijing. It's a sign that relations are back on track. Human rights groups say, though, that the Prime Minister must raise the issue of Tibet. They say that he needs to be a statesman about this issue and that he can't just be a salesman for British businesses here.
But it'll be interesting to see how the 3 days go, because it is clear he has an agenda, and the EU-China Free Trade Agreement is top of that. Do you think they'll broker some sort of deal during this trip, the two sides?
Certainly not on the China-EU trade deal. I mean, when you look at it, we're a long, long way off from that. There's opposition in Europe from European countries. Their fear is that if it was to go ahead, and it is a long, long way off, then China could flood the European market with cheap goods. And there's also the issue of whether or not the UK will remain in the European Union. What you have to remember is Britain is holding a referendum on this issue in 2015. So there's a lot to get worked out. And when you speak to most economists here, they will say that any deal is a long way off, if it ever happens at all.